Syracuse basketball is brand new this season. What's the rotation going to look like?
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, we are talking mostly about the new players for Syracuse basketball this season, which, spoiler alert, most of the roster is completely brand new. The only two players from last year's team that are back for this season, Donnie Freeman and JJ Starling. That's who Syracuse prioritized from keeping away from the transfer portal. They returned, and then obviously they made a bunch of additions this offseason. So that's what we're talking about on today's show. We'll go over the sleeper additions they made, the best newcomers on the team, and also we'll start off with talking about what this rotation could possibly look like and how this team could possibly fit together this season. All that and more here on today's edition of Locked On Syracuse. And before we get to everything, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. And I should have also mentioned that we are joined by Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House for the second consecutive day. Thank you so much, Neil, for taking the time here. So, Neil, I got to ask you, with all the newcomers on this team, what do you think this rotation is going to look like come opening night?
First of all, thanks for having me on again. I appreciate you, brother. I am curious to see, like, and certainly like the first couple games. Well, actually, some of the early games, when they're out in Vegas, will be challenging. But I am curious to see like how deep the rotation goes throughout the year. And if you're asking me my opinion today, I think Nate George starts at point guard, JJ Starling at shooting guard, Nate Kingz at the 3, Donnie Freeman at the 4, and then William Kyle at the 5. Beyond that, like the next couple of guys in, I'm kind of curious because I think, and you're going to talk about sleepers, like I'm all in on Tyler Betsy because I've been all in on that dude for a couple of years because, Syracuse recruited him out of prep school. So I used to write about him for Loud House. And I just think he could be a really good piece for this team. But, how much are like the 3 main freshmen? How much run are they going to get? Fennell, Sadiq White, and Kiyan Anthony. And then like from the center spot, the other Georgia Tech guy, Abraham, am I getting that
Ibrahim
right?
Soare, yeah.
All right, yeah, like both, Kyle didn't do much last year at UCLA. He was hurt for part of the year, but before that, at a mid-major, he looked pretty good on defense at least. And Soare didn't, doesn't have a lot of production either. So is it going to be like a tandem at center, or is it going to be Kyle primarily? Is Donnie Freeman going to play some center? Is Sadiq White's going to play some center? I don't know. I feel like I'm missing a few guys, but I think that 5-person rotation looks pretty solid. I mean, I'm not the coach, so we'll see, but I could see Tyler Betsy being the first guy off the bench. I could see Kiyan and Sadiq White being the next, 2 up there. Maybe Fennell if he's looking good in practice. We'll see. They have, like you said, they have 13 scholarship players, and 11 of them are new to the program.
We'll talk about this more in the sleeper segment, but I think there's a lot of room. There's a lot of uncertainty on the roster, but there's also a lot of potential on the roster, if that makes sense, because all of these guys that they have a lot of pedigree off the bench, but many of them don't really have either a lot of experience, a lot of production, or in the case of William Kyle, they have some production, but the production was at a mid-major. And when he was at UCLA last year, granted, there was a bunch of different circumstances going on with him. He did not produce as much as what he did in a mid-major school. So it is hard to figure out right now what this rotation is going to be. I think you hit the nail on the head with the starting rotation, starting 5. Nate George is going to start at point guard. You got JJ Starling as your 2 guard. Nate Kingz, it looks like he's going to be the starting 3, although I think it's possible that if Tyler Betsy is really good, he could maybe take that job and you have Nate Kingz come off the bench. That would be a very good problem to have.
That's fine too. I'm down with that.
You can never have enough talented players, right?
Sharpshooter.
Your starting 4 is going to be Donnie Freeman, and then your starting 5, at least at the beginning of this season, it seems like it's going to be William Kyle, although that's a position that I think is really flexible for Syracuse right now, because you look at a lot of their additions, and you're right that we've talked about this before. They didn't make any true center addition, which I was okay with, because you can go out and get Nate George instead, who is a better point guard than what you could have gotten relative to what you could have gotten at a center, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Things being equal with the money, you can get a better point guard than a better center. So get the better player in a guy like Nate George. I also look at center and say that's a very flexible position for Syracuse. If for whatever reason William Kyle cannot be a starting center, it could be a thing like it was in 2024 with Naheem McLeod when he was healthy, where your starting center is only playing 15 to 20 minutes a night. Right. And you have your backup center, Ibrahim Soiree. We'll see if he can take a step or not. He's a young guy, but maybe he's only going to get 5 minutes a night. And so then you're left with saying, what's the other 10 to 15 minutes? Center spot. Donnie could slide over to the 5. You could have Donnie slide to the 5, have Sadiq White play the 4, or Tyler Betsy play the 4, or go ultimate small ball and just say, hey, none of them are on the floor, and you go line up with, I don't know, Nate George, JJ Starling, Kiyan Anthony, Nait Kingz, and then Tyler Betsy, someone like that. Like there are different possibilities for this rotation this season in the event that something might go wrong, which usually nothing is really ever perfect with teams. So I do like the flexibility of the roster with all the new players that they got, because a lot of them could fill multiple different positions.
Yeah, and I'll just add there that, as we talked about on the other show, and you just mentioned, while they don't have like a Naheem McLeod, well, he was 7'4", but like a traditional 6'11", 7'1", 7'2" guy, they have a lot of they have multiple dudes, whether at hybrid forward position or 4/5, that are 6'8", 6'9", and above, with wingspans and athleticism. And so I agree with you. I don't think that this team, if this team ends up stinking, it's not going to be, I don't think, because they don't have a 7'1" center. I just don't think it.
I agree. I think if this team is bad, it would be because their defense is not good and their shooting their lack of shooting proves to be much of a factor, with the fact that they can't score a lot of points anymore like we project they will with their offense. Maybe Nate Kingz doesn't shoot 45% from 3. I'm not expecting him to, but maybe it's like 37%, and that could be a problem for Syracuse. There are many different ways that this could also go wrong before you get to, well, they don't have a traditional center. So I agree with you on that. That being said, I think we all hope that Syracuse is not going to be terrible, which we talked about on yesterday's show here on Locked On Syracuse. Jackson Holzer of Locked On Syracuse, that's Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House, giving our early thoughts about this rotation for the Orange this upcoming season. Now, coming up, we got to talk about the 2 big-time additions that Syracuse made in the transfer portal. So stick with us here on Locked On Syracuse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Their trade master perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit SupplyHouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you definitely don't want to miss. That's right. Bet against the New York Jets. That's the offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The New York Jets, they're playing in Europe, playing overseas against the Denver Broncos. It's a 9:30 a.m. game here on the East Coast on Sunday. Pick against the New York Jets. I'm a New York Jets fan. I promise you, nothing will go wrong if you pick against the New York Jets. Well, maybe they will win that off game sometime in December to ruin their draft position. Neither here nor there. They should have no chance really against the Denver Broncos. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Locked on Syracuse, I'm Jackson Holzer. That's Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House. We are going over the newcomers for Syracuse basketball in 2025-26. Once again, 11 of the 13 players on the roster are brand new for Syracuse, so it is much easier to talk about the two holdovers, which are JJ Starling and Donnie Freeman, than it is to talk about the newcomers, but we are talking about the newcomers here on today's show. And we have to go over the two big additions that Syracuse made in the transfer portal, and credit to them. They, particularly with one guy, they absolutely had to get, and the other could be a very important piece for Syracuse this year. Nait George from Georgia Tech, the new starting point guard for Syracuse, one of the top point guards available in the portal. Syracuse got him ahead of a few big-time schools, including North Carolina and the ACC. And, of course, they also got Nait Kingz, who last year at Oregon State shot 45% from the three-point line. Not 45% from the field, from the three-point line. Pretty impressive. So, Neil, what do you think the ceiling is for these guys?
Well, let me just back up, and yes, let's give some props here to the Syracuse basketball staff. And obviously Alex Klein wasn't involved in last year's portal haul, and he was this year. And I'm sure that was a big factor in NIL money, et cetera. But yeah, they got 6 transfers. Like you said, Nait George, he's a top 10, top 15 point guard in the portal, 4 stars in the portal. Same with Nate Kingz. Tyler Betsy was 4 stars in the portal. The other guys were 3 stars. But I think on the 24/7 Sports, it's like their transfer class is like 35th. Their composite class, let me just look, was 7. I was figuring I'd look this up, 17th. But overall, 20th. So like you've mentioned a couple of times, 11 of 13 guys are new, and that 6 transfers, 5 prep recruits, overall top 20 in the country. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So Nait George, he led the ACC in assists last year, 6.3 per game, something like that.
No, you're underestimating him. 6.5.
Crap. See, I'm usually wrong. People need to call me out all the time.
Should I not have you on the show anymore since you're always wrong?
Well, I hope you'll have me on the show. We can just talk about the Jets and nothing. We won't talk about Syracuse.
That is my professional betting advice.
We'll talk about
Bet against the New York
and the
Jets.
Ravens. Yeah, it'll be great. It'll be a super downer. I think he will be, as we mentioned on the other yesterday's show, we'll see about like if he's turnover prone, but facilitating for others, just being a steady point guard. I think he can also, as you said yesterday, I think he will score in double digits as well. I think his ceiling is all ACC. I'm not saying it's first team. I'm not saying he's going to be the ACC player of the year, but absolutely. Why not? Kingz?
I like him.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, he shot 44.7%, I think it was.
Let me look.
You
now I
rounded
need
it
to
up
fact
to
check you again on this one.
Yeah.
I know I rounded up when I said 45%.
45.7?
No, it wasn't 45.7.
Or 44, 44.7.
So wrong. You were so wrong. Are you ready for his 3-point percentage last year, Nait Kingz?
44.7.
44.6.
Fire me.
You're so close.
I'm so fired. I mean, you would think after having written numerous times about him over the last. No, the thing is he shot it on high volume too. It wasn't like he shot 44.6% and he took one. Like I don't remember the exact number.
Over 4 attempts per game.
Okay, yeah. So like high, and I wonder where that was nationally. I should have looked that up. I don't know if I've ever looked that up. Anyway, I think he, like you said, I don't know if he starts at the 3 or if he comes off the bench, but either way, I think he's going to get substantial minutes. And if I'm being honest, like he's the most proven, or is he the only proven 3-point shooter on the team? And he didn't play for Syracuse last year, but just Donnie can shoot it from 3, but he wasn't great and he didn't have a lot of attempts. Kiyan's new, Luke Fennell's new, Starling's not a good 3-point shooter. What does Nait George shoot from 3? I should know
Nait
that.
George is not particularly great from
like
3,
30,
but he got better at the end of last season. So you could maybe expect that he can carry it over into this year.
35-ish maybe.
Last year he shot a respectable 33.9% from the 3-point line, and he did it on over 5 3-point attempts per game. See, if Nate George is going to shoot about 34% from three, then that's too many threes to be taking in a game. I would want him to cut down on it. That's one of my big pet peeves with JJ Starling is the amount of three-pointers he attempts per game, considering that he is not a good three-point shooter. And I understand like he wants to keep the defense honest because
sure.
they know that he is really good at attacking the rim. But defenses are also not stupid. They know that he's not a great three-point shooter, so they're going to give him that shot. They're going to give him an open three because they don't trust that he's going to make it on a consistent basis. So if Nate George improves his three-point shooting into the mid to high 30s, I would say, like at 36. Least 35, 36, maybe 37, 38%, then I would say that's probably a good amount of volume, 4 to 5 3-point attempts per game. But if he's going to be shooting less than 34% from the three-point line, I don't want him taking that many attempts. I'd rather him use his passing ability because he's one of the best passers in the conference, led the ACC in assists last year, and drive to the rim and go set up Nate Kingz and get him a bunch of three-point looks, particularly early. You got to feed that man. Get him 6 to 7 threes a game because he's someone that is capable. If you give him 7 attempts, he's capable of making 3 to 4 of them on any given night.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think Kingz could definitely. I'm not saying he's going to be all ACC again. Given we'll see about minutes and all that, but sure, he could average 10 to 12 points a game, and if he's shooting in the low 40s and on high volume from three, that's really, really, really good. And then so some of the other guys, in terms of William Kyle, we don't know, and like you said, he's demonstrated mid-major. Where did he go to again? I'm totally blanking. South Dakota?
I believe it's South Dakota State, but I could be totally wrong on it. We haven't talked about basketball in a while, so forgive me.
I know, right? No, I should remember that.
It is South Dakota State. So
that's what I thought. Summit League? I think it was the Summit League. Yeah. But so he's demonstrated that he can block shots, and there's clearly athleticism there. But again, like you said, he didn't play a lot of UCLA. He was injured and for some of it, and there was other circumstances with other players, but he's unproven at the high major level in terms of being a starting center, and Soiree is unproven. So, we'll see. Like if the two of them could like hold down the majority of minutes, not get into crazy foul trouble, score a little bit around the rim or whatever. But like for me, the most important thing that was lacking, or one of the most important things that was lacking from Syracuse's porous defense last year, is rim protection. And I think these guys, whether it's blocking shots, deflecting shots, or just getting their 6'9", 7'5" or whatever wingspan up there and just making life difficult for, the opponents in terms of shooting, that'll be helpful. I'm not saying they're going to score a bunch, and hopefully they don't get in foul, and they got to rebound and get some offensive rebounds. You talked about yesterday. If Syracuse isn't going to be a great 3-point shooting team, getting points out in transition is going to be key, and also crashing the offensive glass, because if they're not a great shooting team, but they're getting, like you said, second, third, fourth chance, I mean, that's important. And then I'm going to talk about Tyler Betsy in the sleepers category, but I think he will be a good addition as well. He didn't have a ton of production at Cincinnati last year, but he's a former top 50 player, and that Syracuse recruited. So, he knows the staff. I'm not saying he's going to start, but I think he'll be if he doesn't start, I think Betts will be in the top 2 or 3 guys in the, off the bench. He could be the 6th man. Who am I missing?
Well, we could talk about the freshman, I think, in the next.
Oh, yeah. So, and then in terms of the guy from Montana State, is that
Bryce Zephyr? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see him playing a lot. But I'm not going to sit here and trash on him either. I just don't see him playing a lot. I'll leave it. I'll leave it at that. Okay, brother.
I don't see him playing a lot either. We'll see what happens. We'll see what the staff thinks of him and how he factors into the rotation. Like he's going to play minutes.
Yeah.
Like, it's just when he plays and who he plays against is a different story with Bryce Zephyr.
Yeah.
I remember doing that podcast after when everyone was freaking out about it. I shouldn't say everyone, but most people were freaking out about it. And I just said, I think he's a roster filler. I think he's there to play a certain role that any team needs. You need someone who can maybe give you fouls at some point in a game. He's athletic enough, so he can run around a little bit.
Yeah,
and you need guys who can also practice against too. I mean, you need bodies on a team at the end of the day. You need a lot of roster, so
And you bring up a good point there, Jackson, not just like bodies in terms of like fouls and stuff, but if this team is going to play up tempo and if they're going to employ a full court press a lot, like, guys are like, maybe he comes in and helps, handle the ball handling a little bit here and there and helps out on a full court press or whatever. Yeah. I mean, that could be a role. I mean, even if it's 5 minutes a game or, whatever it is. But yeah, I don't obviously, but I mean, overall, again, this is all on paper. This is a nice looking transfer class that has some guys that have shown that they can do it at the higher major level and others that haven't had that opportunity yet. So I'm not really faulting them, but I still think, and I think I said this yesterday on Locked On Syracuse, with 11 out of 13 new guys, like how is this team going to gel? And I know that's like a cliche statement, and I'm sure they're, getting real tight off the court and their buddies and all, but I'm saying like on the court, how are they communicating, especially on defense? How is it just flowing together? It just didn't everything seem, and I don't want to like trash last year's team, regardless of the wins and losses, it just seemed kind of like disjointed. And I know with JJ out and Donnie out a bunch and just,
it never seemed like they hit
it was just all over the place.
They never seemed to hit a rhythm.
Yeah.
It was just like, it was like you would see pockets of it where they looked like they could be pretty decent. And then it would just fall apart all of a sudden. They have like a 5-minute stretch where you get outscored 20-0 and the game becomes a blowout.
Yeah.
So you're right. You're 100% right about that. Before we get into the sleeper additions that they made, we can also talk about some of the freshmen as well, because we've only really talked about the transfers so far.
Yeah.
The one critique I have for Syracuse basketball this offseason, as far as a roster construction standpoint, is I think they're missing one more proven guy out of the portal. We've talked a lot about the players and all the potential that they have. We'll get into Tyler Betsy. We can talk about William Kyle more. All of the additions that they made. We can go over the freshmen as well with Kiyan Anthony, Sadiq White. They're missing one guy from the portal that you can really bank on being a high impact player. If Syracuse had gotten one more high impact player, and I'm talking about another guy who could potentially be on the tier of a Nait George level caliber transfer, obviously not a point guard, but a different position, I would very comfortably be picking this team in the NCAA tournament. Like, it wouldn't just be a hopeful expectation. It would be, no, this is like, you better make it. You have too good of a team to miss the NCAA tournament, where making the tournament at that point becomes the bare minimum. And we could start talking about, hey, when you get to the tournament, what is a fair expectation for this team moving forward? So that's my one critique, which is they needed, I think, one more guy. They didn't get him. So we'll just have to, I guess, see what happens with what else they have on the roster. And hey, coming up, we'll talk about guys who are sleepers, guys who could potentially step up and, prove me wrong that Syracuse didn't need to get anyone else out of the transfer portal. So stick with us here on Locked On Syracuse. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls, with the all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. One of the tools that help make a big difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. I love how Quo, formerly known as Open Phone, lets your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly Open Phone. Get started for free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Jackson Holzer, Locked On Syracuse. That's Neil Adler from Inside the Loud House. We're going over all the newcomers for Syracuse basketball this season. We've talked about the best players that they got this offseason. Nate George, point guard from Georgia Tech. Nate Kingz, 2/3 from Oregon State, 45% three-point shooter last year on high volume as well. But outside of those two players, there's a lot of sleepers, a lot of guys who are unproven. That includes the top freshmen that they added in this class. Obviously, Kiyan Anthony being a high-end 4-star, being a high-end 4-star. You got 3 other freshmen there as well. Apologize yesterday. I just realized we left out Aaron Womack as one of the freshmen that Syracuse added this offseason. So, Neil, with all that being said, I already know what you're going to say, that Tyler Betsy is a big sleeper for you this year. Why Tyler Betsy from Cincinnati is a big sleeper for you in 2025-26?
Yeah, maybe he's not even a sleeper. I just feel like I think he can and will make a fairly big contribution to this team. And I don't know if he was like talked about as much like in the offseason by me and you or other members of the media or whatever. Because like you said, the focus seemed to be more on Nate George, who was a top 15 point guard out of the portal, Nate Kingz, who shot 44.6% from 3. And, you know, even like a William Kyle, just because, you know, they obviously needed center guys and this guy's super athletic and blah, blah, blah. But, and Betsy also, he was their last portal. Was he their last portal edition? I'm trying to go through the timeline.
Trying to go through the timeline too. He was one of the later ones.
He was one of the later ones. Let's leave it at that. And again, he didn't have a lot of production last year at Cincinnati, so maybe he's a sleeper. I don't know. I was covering him, you know, back in the day when Syracuse was recruiting him. I'm totally blanking on what prep school he went to, but he's from Connecticut. I'm gonna look that up while we're talking. But again, a top 50 guy. He's like what, 6'8", 6'9". I assume he could play the 3, the 4, and I guess small ball 5. I think if I remember correctly from prep school, he was a good 3-point shooter. He went to St. Thomas More, which is a well-known prep school in Connecticut, and Syracuse has recruited other guys from there, some that they've won out for, some that they haven't. But he, you know, again, top 50 recruit. And I just think that, you know, he can play multiple positions. He's athletic. He's a good defender, or at least I'm basing this off of like when I would write about him in high school. So like he's a year removed from high school, and he also didn't do much at Cincinnati, but he didn't get a lot of run. And I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of what their roster was all about last year. So, but I just feel like that was like I was like surprised when that came across. I don't remember who broke it, but obviously after it broke, we all wrote about it because I mean, I knew he was in the portal and, you know, and I have people that I talked to, but I didn't know how much Syracuse was going after him, but I also knew of him because he was a Syracuse recruit back in the day. And when he was offered by Syracuse, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if Mike McAllister or someone else interviewed him and said, and Betsy said he wanted to visit, but that never happened. Obviously, he ended up at Cincinnati. But he just seems like that was like a really good late transfer portal window acquisition. And again, I don't know if he's going to start or be one of the first guys off the bench, but I really like his game. He's a lefty, right? And he's just pretty sure he's a lefty. If he's not a lefty and I just said that, someone needs to crush me in the comment section. I'm pretty sure he's a lefty. I don't know how great he's going to be from deep or if he's going to shoot it, but I just feel like he's athletic. He fits the mold of this team, getting out in transition, helping out on the glass on both ends. I like his fit. You mentioned like getting one more high impact, highly ranked guy out of the portal. He was 4 stars out of the portal, but he didn't have a lot of production last year. So,
that's the thing.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I get it. Nate George and Nate Kingz had more production. They're more credible, so to speak. But they're also older. Betsy's only been in college for 1 year, but I really like his game. And I think he's going to have a big role for this team. And didn't Donnie Freeman 2 days ago at the ACC tip-off event said he was an X factor or sleeper or whatever?
I was going to mention it. Donnie Freeman was asked about sleepers, and he was like, Tyler Betsy, like right off the bat. He's like, Tyler Betsy, someone that really nobody is talking about. And there's a reason why not a lot of people are talking about Tyler Betsy, because last year when he was at Cincinnati, he was a freshman. He played in 34 games, but he got it. He played about 11 minutes a night.
Right.
Averaged 3 points. I'm looking at his numbers right now. He averaged 3 points.
Right.
32% from 3-point range. Was not a good free throw shooter.
Yeah.
he didn't really do all that much, but he also
No.
wasn't on the floor, and he was a freshman. But this is someone who was a former top 50 recruit out of high school. So you don't know. I mean, he's one of those wild cards this season.
That's a good way to put it.
He's someone who
wild card.
If you tell me at the end of the year that Tyler Betsy is one of the top performers for Syracuse basketball, I would say that's amazing because he must have taken a big step forward in development. If you say to me that he's someone that's buried on the depth chart and he's not really playing a whole lot, I would not be surprised with that either. That's why he is an X factor of this team in the literal sense of an X factor, where you don't know what you're going to get from Tyler Betsy this season. But hey, if Donnie Freeman is saying that he's going to have a big year, then I'll take Donnie's word for it, I guess. I mean, now I guess there's going to be a little bit more attention to Tyler Betsy. I think another guy that I'm definitely sleeping on, but there's a reason for it, is Luke Fennell. The guard that they got from Australia.
I knew you were going to say that.
The reason why I'm sleeping on him a lot, well, first of all, the staff, I remember over the summer, they were like, hey, if this guy was playing in America, he'd be rated much higher. Well, the scouts out there, they actually did do their jobs. They did rate him a low-end 4-star, high-end 3-star recruit. I'm not going to sit here and disrespect Luke Fennell, but I do know what his recruiting rankings are. But he could be a good player.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how many minutes he's going to get this year.
Yeah.
Think about the position he plays. You could put him at the 1, you can put him at the 2. Well, your 1 is Nate George. You're going to give him at least 30 minutes a night, at least. Probably closer to 35.
I would agree.
Your starting 2 is JJ Starling. I'm assuming you want him on the floor a lot. That's 30 to 35 minutes right there.
Agreed.
So then, well, what about the 3? Well, your 3 is Nate Kingz. And behind him, we just talked about Tyler Betsy. And also there's this kid, Kiyan Anthony.
Right.
As well, that plays the 2, but you never know if he might play the 3 as well this season.
Probably play the 3, yeah.
And if you make him primarily a point guard, okay, sure, he's the backup to Nate George. Being the backup to Nate George, you're playing 5 to 10 minutes a night, if that. So with Luke Fennell, I don't really know if it's a talent thing. It's more so, is he going to get the opportunity this year to really thrive? Is he going to get the amount of minutes that it'll take for me to sit there and say, oh, yeah, he had a very impactful freshman year? Or is it just going to be one of those cases where we don't really hear much from Luke Fennell this year, but he takes a big step perhaps his sophomore season?
Yeah, that's fair. And you're right. He's 4 stars and like top 125. And, I always say take the recruiting rankings somewhat with a grain of salt, generally speaking, but even more so with a guy like Luke Fennell because he played in Australia. So, the rankings are not necessarily as consistent, but again, 4 stars. And he was playing against pros. That's and I don't pretend to know was it the NBL, National Basketball League, NBL, like I think it was. Yeah. So I mean, I'm not saying it's the NBA, but he played for
close. It's close.
Yeah, and he played
One
for
letter.
And he played for, because I wrote about it some. He played in the FIBA World Cup this summer because like Jordan Smith Jr. and so Syracuse recruits play there, and Brendan Strong was overseas at it. But so like he's got like good playing experience, so to speak. But I agree with you. Where are the minutes going to come from? And I think he's listed on 24/7 Sports as a combo guard. I definitely think he can play the 1 or the 2. I just don't know how much run he's going to get this year. But I'm just going to be so fascinated. Like, who's going to get more run, him or Kiyan Anthony? Like, is everyone assuming Kiyan Anthony is going to get like 25 plus minutes a game? Because
there's no way he's getting 25 minutes. At least
I don't think so either.
He's got no chance to play 25 minutes a night to start the year. Think about the guys that are ahead of him right now.
Oh, I agree.
By the end of the year, could Kiyan Anthony force his way onto the court and play 25 minutes a night? Absolutely. That is a possibility to happen. Sure. But if you're looking at the one freshman who's probably going to get significant playing time this season, it would be Sadiq White, if anything like that, because he gives this team probably the one thing that they really lack. Defense. You need him to play. So they're going to use him in many different fashions. Yeah, Kiyan Anthony can score. That's great for Kiyan Anthony. This team doesn't really seem to have much of a problem with scoring, at least on paper. There are plenty of guys on the team already that can score. So with Kiyan Anthony, first of all, the position he plays, he's probably ahead of Luke Fennell right now, but you never really know. That's all going to play itself out in practice and on the court in actual games. Sure. But with Kiyan Anthony's role, I don't see him playing 25 minutes a night. Right now, I don't see him playing 20 minutes a night. I mean, is he going to take Nate King's spot right now? You need Nate Kingz on the floor. He's shooting 45% from three. You need him. He's not going to play above JJ Starling right now. He's certainly not going to play point guard above Nate George, and he's too small to be a 4.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with everything. For me, it's like, how do I say this without being rude? There'll be a contingent of Syracuse fans out there that maybe are more casual fans, and I'm not, whatever, but they'll be like, why isn't Kiyan Anthony playing more? Autry, put Kiyan Anthony more. He's Melo's son. Well, do you really know what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Because it's Carmelo's freaking son. I get it.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to play that much either. But I also think that, like, I covered him a lot, for Loud House, when Syracuse was recruiting him and after he committed, like, he's top 30, top 35. Like, he deserves those rankings. He had a really good senior year at Lehigh. He was injured for part of the year, but he played in a couple All-American games. Like, he's a good player. He's not just in the top 35 because he's Melo's son.
Right.
Yeah, I don't, and I feel like, has he said in interviews that he's like 2 and done at Syracuse? Did he say that? I feel like he said that once.
He might have, but there's a reason why, if he's saying that, I'm not going to sit here and say you're wrong about it.
Don't quote me on it, but I feel like he said that in one interview.
If he said something along the lines of 2 and done, it's because I think he understands that he's not going to get the opportunity to be a 1 and done this year. Unless barring injury, right?
Well,
I mean, knock on wood. Yeah. I mean, no injuries or anything like that. But that's one way he can get on the floor a lot. The other way he can get on the floor a lot is by forcing himself on the floor, which is do something that this team needs. This team needs shooting.
Yeah.
If Kiyan Anthony is coming in for 10 minutes a game, but he's shooting really well from 3 when he's in, that's one way for his minutes to go up and to increase. Because we'll sit there, I will be on this podcast and we'll be streaming at Autry, hey, you need to play this guy more because look what he's doing. He's shooting. Yeah. Your team lacks shooting. It's like how Sadiq White, you need his defense.
Right.
This team lacks defense when he's not on the floor. So with Kiyan, I mean, he's also an X factor. Yeah, he's Melo's son. But what I would caution those who maybe aren't following along as much with him is Carmelo Anthony was the #1 high school player in the country when he came to Syracuse.
Yeah, exactly.
He was a sure thing. He was a lock. He was going to be 1 and done in an era where 1 and done was a lot less common than it is now. And actually back then, players would actually go straight from high school to the NBA. They sometimes would just skip college altogether.
LeBron did in that draft.
Remember LeBron and Melo for a hot minute? Thought that might happen at Syracuse. Yeah. That team would have won the national championship, and they would not have lost a single game with LeBron and Carmelo Anthony on the same team. But alas, we'll settle for the 2003 championship.
Yeah, it was so pretty good.
That's okay. But the point being is that Melo was the #1 player in the country. Kiyan's a great prospect, but he's top 30 in the country. There's a big difference between top 30 than #1. Think of it like, who's the #1 player in the country coming out this year? Is it Cam Boozer at Duke?
I don't know. If
it's the guy from BYU. It's the BYU guy and then
Darren and then
Darren Peterson at Kansas, right? Yep. So Kiyan is not on that level. Those are the guys who right away, as true freshmen, are going to be the best players in the country. Best like players.
Super flag last year. Yeah.
Super flag last year.
Right.
Kiyan's not that.
No, but he could
become that one day.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
I'm just curious about how many minutes you talk about Sadiq White and his defense, but like, where does he fit in with all that? Because he's not starting over Donnie. No, and I don't think he's starting over Nate. But like, is he going to play like some hybrid 3-4 throughout the game?
I think he's going to play hybrid 3-4-5.
Yeah.
Unless they're going to sit there and say Sadiq White, no matter what, is not going to be a center. But if they're not super confident in their center position, the 5 is essentially open for plenty of minutes. And that's, if you move Donnie to the 5 for a little bit, well, that opens up who's going to be a power forward. Sure. Well, it's going to be Sadiq White.
Yeah.
And Sadiq White also has the size where you can put him at the 3. If you want Tyler Betsy on the floor at the same time, Tyler Betsy plays the 3. Kiyan Anthony, Sadiq White plays the 4. Donnie plays the 5. Because the 5 is kind of a hole on this team right now until proven otherwise with William Kyle and Ibrahim Soare, the 5 is the spot I look at and say, there are so many minutes that are up for grabs there. And if you move someone over, well, that opens up plenty of playing time for Sadiq, or they just give it to Sadiq White, quite frank, and say, you're going to play some spots in center. I don't know if that's the best idea to do as a true freshman, but I'm not the one who's making the rotation and the roster decisions here on Locked On Syracuse. And speaking of that, Neil, thank you so much. Where can people find you on social media?
Oh, thank you, brother. So I'm at Damn Twin on X, and then Inside the Loud House is at Loudhouse FS. Thanks, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Neil. And hey, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening to Locked On Syracuse. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy Locked On Syracuse, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse, and we'll see you all again soon.